Thank you. Yes, I am audible. Always funny if you hear yourself. Hello, good morning. My name is Mario. I know I'm in good company because most of you are designers, as am I. True fact, actually. I am a graphic designosaurus. What that means is I graduated before these things ruled the world. So that also means I've swam a few waters and I've done a few rodeos for me to be a principal designer in a UX company, right? So what I'm saying is what David Bowie kind of immortalized. Changes. Our industry is just changing at such a pace. Digital is transforming everything. And design kind of sits center point in that. The way we design today is radically different and keeps changing, right? We do research, we go and understand the problem, we prototype, we iterate our way to incremental success, and all of this we do highly visible alongside of a client. That's completely different than how we used to do things. And that's awesome, right? The time is always beta for me. I always think of tomorrow as the better possibility of today, and my mind, my heart, my gut, I constantly look for things that are in need of what I feel is an improvement. And then I go about and find ways to make that a tangible reality. That's what I love about my job. And even though we see this pace of technology and this overwhelming wave of possibilities come at us, and the fears that create, we must realize that design and technology, we've always worked in very close proximity of each other. We've always worked at the cutting edge of what was technologically possible, except we take this for granted quite fast. So the things that we now see as normal, say that supercomputer you have in your pocket or your hand right now, that was unimaginable a few years ago. It begs the question, right? If today's normal was unimaginable yesterday, well, what will be tomorrow's ordinary? So I want to take a quick dive into what I think is one of the key trends that is going to influence both brand, technology, and the practice of design. This is not going to shock you. Tech is becoming wearable. But we're not even at the tip of the iceberg with this. Technology is going to disappear. It's going to literally become the fabric of anything and everything we interact with. No more consumer electronics, no more gadgets. Technology will just be. First steps that make this as evidence is what you see here is technology or biotech-enabled fabric. What that means is that we are heading to a future where you will never go to a doctor's office, but you see a doctor every day. Wearables will become ingestibles. Pretty soon we'll be in a situation where we allow brands and their product and their service to live inside of us as implantable or as ingestible. These are still in the realm of conceptual testing. Some of it is quite real, but that's where we're heading to. Sensors are becoming the sense. In this concept here, what we're seeing is what's called a digital tattoo. So there's a minimal amount of technology that gets permanently implanted in your hand, and you will be able to unlock your door, pay your restaurant bill, exchange data at a handshake, or perhaps even enhance that deep sense of love that you feel the moment you are with someone that's meaningful. That's where it's heading to, and there are plenty of signs that this is within our reach. You'll be familiar with this. We are familiar with this. Yes? We've probably seen clips of this on YouTube. What this is telling me is that we are building technology, we are building sensors that are able to make decisions faster and safer than we are humanly capable of. That's already our day-to-day reality. Expand that. Think of the possibilities that this could bring. If computers now understand our words and understand our actions and understand our environment, this could become our next city. When we scale this ability, cities will become sort of a hybrid physical-digital environment that can respond and react to our human needs and actually become an enabler, an invisible enabler of human capability. Ultimately, we will come to see this.
Today was the day that I put everything in perspective. I fell asleep, but when I woke up, everything changed and the skies turned off. But that was before. That was before. You came along and you turned me on with a little bit of love and a little bit of yeah. Today is the day. Gotta do out everything that I wanted. I'm scared, but that's alright. Who needs the ride?
Ordinary, dumb things, they come alive with the power of technology because we will live in an environment that has been able to understand our intent and react to it. So yes, friends, our future is just me, myself, and AI. Sensors will be everywhere and everything, and they're constantly generating data about us. By 2022, over 1 trillion connected sensors will be in the world. So if brands are struggling today with what they call big data, I have some bad news for you. There's even bigger data coming your way. It's just beginning. And what we are starting to understand from data and what we can make actionable from it is going to be the brand differentiator. So sensors are everything and anywhere. That's creepy, or is that awesome? It always comes with a tension when you talk about data generation and things that are keeping an eye at you, and I get it. As captured in this quote here, it was made by a friend of mine who happens to be a data scientist. If you're not paranoid about this stuff, you're kind of crazy. It's because we are only evolving our tolerance and our acceptance of this new reality, where we are evolving from being very sensitive about our privacy to accepting that there's sort of an understand trade-off between what I allow you to harness from me and what I get in return. But pretty soon, data is just going to be. It's going to be all around. If tech becomes invisible, there's no such thing as going online anymore. You just are. It's like gravity. And so what brands will start to face is that in the nearby future, before they even connect with a customer, they'll have to go through a machine. They'll have to beat the algorithm. Algorithms, well, They are not emotional beings. So how do you define your brand marketing strategy if you take away all the visual cues, all the empathy, and all the emotional responses? Because your AI, they don't care about your brand purpose. They don't care about your celebrity endorsement. How do brands respond to a new world that is no longer putting them in direct contact with their customer? They need to reinvestigate their value propositions. At the same time, this is a world where contact with your customer is more frequent than ever, with sensors being everywhere, and wearable, and invisible, and the data that is generated. The interaction just increases and will continue to increase. We haven't reached that tipping point yet. And here's a customer that will always expect the most seamless experience. Now, coupled to that with the fact that the whole relationship with products is changing. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the whole concept of ownership is just being flipped upside down. Pretty soon, we will no longer own things, we will just buy usage of these things. And then we will donate, recycle, regift, reuse. We will localize it, we will customize it, we will make it ours. But it's no longer that holy grail of a product that has a mark on it, and we want to be seen with that. That will change. So brands need to think about, how do I create engagement? How do I create meaning in a customer journey when it's no longer the carrot of, you own my brand? Engagement will be key. I believe that an engaged customer is worth much more than a loyal one. And engagement can be found in these new interactions that are still evolving and still emerging day after day. And with the data that it's generating, if we take a new approach to that, we have a shot at truly creating engagement rather than just response. Now data, that brings us to the next cycle. What I believe what is next for data is a lot more intelligence and a lot less artificial. AI is only as good as the data we give it, and its learning capabilities right now, it puts it at a stage where it's very easy for us to see when AI is at work. We can fool this thing in ways that we cannot fool each other. That's a weakness. How AI is being used most of the time is to respond to this, right? Oh, you like this, you must like that. So do you only like what people you like? Is the only ability of artificial intelligence to clickbait you and to make you look? Or can we go a little bit deeper? Can we go a little bit more meaningful? Can artificial intelligence go from doing something faster to predicting an outcome and responding and anticipating to it to actually becoming meaningful and purposeful? It should be possible if sensors are all around us, including inside our bodies, and they measure new data, we can create different outcomes. The biggest threat to that, and yet the biggest promise to that, is human bias. It came as a topic in talks yesterday. It is both the threat and the opportunity in artificial intelligence. Right now, it's just reinforcing bias because, well, garbage in, garbage out, right? We build these things, and we all have our biases. So once we build algorithms based on our biases, all they'll do is just reinforce them. But can we be aware of that? It's going to happen. We are biased by nature, but artificial intelligence is not nature. So it should be able to filter that out and avoid us falling in these boxes that we place ourselves into. It comes down to mixing the right content with the right context. And the context is often kind of brushed aside. We're very content-focused. But if we truly understand the context in which an algorithm is to perform, we can tackle bias, and we can avoid it. That's a job for artificial intelligence. Rather than just anticipating an outcome that we already know is going to happen, it can perhaps redefine a problem. It can perhaps restate a purpose, because it's going to know you and the people around you intimately. This is important. If all we build is algorithms that are based on rationale, we are building them against human nature. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings, but we're not. Yes, we live in our heads most of the time, but we have a heart, and we have an intuition. And these are two areas that no algorithm can predict or replicate. It can only do the logic and the rationale. So, can we design with more emotion? Can we design with more heart? Well, we could. Our role as designer will have to change, and I believe it will be by becoming facilitators. This is good news. It's especially reinforcing for people that are, like myself, graphic designasauruses, because when we graduated, we were actually trained facilitators. We were not expected to do the whole thing ourselves. We had to work with other specialists, people that make bromides. And I see a few eyebrows raised like, what the hell is he talking about? Letter setters, photographers on which you had to give a sketch. This is how I want my composition to be done. All that has disappeared, but that made us facilitators. That made us to sort of an entry-level facilitators that are needed today. So we're going to move beyond just the surface touch-ups that we are expected to deliver. We're going to move beyond, that's a nice material. It's going to become, what can a material actually mean? What's the story? And your role as a designer is going to be to think ahead of the possibilities and the next for this brand, the next for this decision that you made. Computers are kind of diverging into three areas. They're going to go up in the cloud, they're going to go into our environment and become invisible, and they're going to go inside of our bodies. So interfaces are going to get out of the way. They're going to be less needy, they're going to be less difficult to learn because we've designed all the friction out of them. At one point, we have reached the usability criteria, and then we're done. Well, in a world where technology is invisible, interaction with technology will come only when and where it is needed, which will mean it will only be when it can add value. And that needs to be thought about ahead in time. So what I'm saying is that we need to design outside our lines. We need to design outside of our discipline. I don't mean learn a new tool, try your hand at After Effects. I mean, try your hand at understanding the vision of a company and how design can influence it. Design outside your lines. Design outside your lines means, what are the technological capabilities that no one in this room is talking about that is of influence and importance? Because the good news for us is design is never done. What you innovate today is the design problem you created for tomorrow. Design is never done because you will continually iterate upon learnings. And the learnings are going to increase because everything will be a sensor. Everything will be able to tell you new data, new information, new learnings on which you can build a better version on the thing that you built yesterday. Design will never be done. And for us to be a key critical role in that world, we need to be able to facilitate these discussions, to facilitate these possibilities that we see left, right, and center even though they're not on your brief, even though they're not discussed in the room, you are aware of them, and you're the champion for them. If you are in a position to help shape new relationships that we will form with products and services. And you'll be influencing them for something more than just a quick, buy now or click here. We can go deeper. Because the question I'm asking is, as a designer, how can I have technology work better for humans? I'm going to share a few thoughts and propositions that I have at this point in time. They may change, they have changed already because this world keeps evolving. But one of the key steps I believe we can make is, instead of waiting for strategy to define what we should be doing and what we should be making, can we allow it to become a two-way street? Can we perhaps make it a business strategy to do and make, and have it inform back what the strategy should become or has to evolve to? Quite often I've felt that strategy, it gets set in stone and thou shall not touch it anymore. But by the time that strategy is understood within a company, the world has moved on and new technology has emerged. New possibilities, new touch points, we've never thought of that. Oh yeah, but we can't because our strategy. Let's loosen that up. Let's make that a two-way street. And let's step up our game. It's a pet peeve of mine that designers are not changing their capabilities, are not changing their methodologies. It's the old school stuff that is still in play. And meanwhile, things like blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, it's just taking off. It's in the hands of engineers and developers. But ultimately, we live in a designed world. Ultimately, it's going to come onto your table and in your hands. If there is no passion for it, no understanding of it, not even a fundamental grasp of what the capability is, what are we going to do? Technology, I believe, is much like a material, like a crayon that you use for you sketch out your ideas, or the Wacom digitizer if you're with the hip crowd. But technology should be seen and embraced as the same thing. It's a material, it's an expression, it's a creativity that you can apply to problem solving. What we also need to get better at is system thinking. So if everything we design is a sensor, all that data that's going to come in is going to give an insight in how a product is used, not in its functionality, but when it's sitting on a shelf or lying in a drawer, or who's interacting with it, when, all kinds of new insights. The entire life cycle of a product is going to be understood. We think we know that, but that's just assumptions and good guesswork. At best, documented with research, but the sensors are going to tell us the truth. The sensors might even pick up the biochemical reactions that a person has because they just grabbed that pair of Nikes out of the closet. What can we then do with that information to improve upon products? That's systems thinking at work. What's the bigger world around the service or the product that's in the center of it? Systems thinking is so key. I urge all my designers to focus on it and to bring a story up front about it when we are on projects. Because I want to avoid that all we do is design a little rational value. What do I mean with rational value? Well, how many steps have we taken today? How many flights of stairs? What's the number of calories I burned? Great, numbers, ration. How about emotional value? I just don't see it. It's sometimes being billed as, this is vessel who in the audience knows Vessel? So Vessel is a smart cup. So if you pour coffee into it, the cup will say, this is coffee. What's the problem? Did I not know what I poured in my cup? So this is rationale at work. Where's the emotion? Where's the intrigue? Where's the enrichment of an interaction? This is solving a problem that doesn't exist. One of my other pet peeves would be smart light bulbs. What is a smart light bulb actually solving? Let's think of a journey of smart light bulb compared to its competitor, the regular light bulb. A regular light bulb, I get up, I flip a switch, the light is on, I sit down. The smart light bulb, I get up, I look for my phone, I unlock my phone, I open the app, I wait for the app to connect on the internet, I wait for the signal that my light bulb has been connected to my app via the internet, I switch it on, I switch off my phone, I go sit down. What? And yet, this is what we're outputting in the world, technology for technology's sake. Look what I can do. Where's the emotional value? So can we start focusing on that? Our customer is ready for that kind of interaction, for that kind of engagement, for something that's more nourishing to their world, something that's more meaningful to who they are, not another gimmick. The more we do that, the more distance we create between the technology, its capabilities, and the purpose that we can give it. I find that if there are new services, new products, and new functionalities that you want to introduce to your customer, I find more success in connecting with this customer on an emotional level rather than on a rational level. Because ration will often be argued, emotion will only get response. Your customer's ready for that. Your colleagues are ready for that. Your client is ready for that. They may not have voiced it. They are ready for that. There is not going to be a choice. The world is going to become the seventh sense. It's going to understand you better than you understand yourself. And that's the world we are going to be designing for. Good news is, designers are perfectly positioned in this world. We can sit between the creativity and the technology and bridge both for the benefit of humans. That's our role. Anything else we fall short of. If we only think of the next rendition of a software update, if we only think of the next product to push out, if we do not think about the bigger possibilities of our future, we fall short of our role. And our role is to make technology work on human terms and not the other way around. That's what I wanted to share with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Now we are opening the floor for questions for Mario.
Thanks for that. Well, firstly, the light bulbs are smart also because they live in an ecosystem, you know, and I can switch on my lights from here and program it so that it looks like I'm always at home even when I'm on holiday. But just a question more about business. So you get or even in an organization, you get CEOs that override vision like that. You get clients who do not have enough vision. Do you turn down such jobs because you're not really, you know, that's bread and butter jobs? I just want a button that does something, or you're just going according to the whims of a client. But as a business, do you actively turn down potentially lucrative jobs because the client really needs, you know, much more enlightenment? What's your approach to?
Thank you. This may be surprising and this may be shocking. At FoolProof, we turn down more jobs than we accept. There's a few reasons for that. One of them is what you share. If we don't feel the chemistry with the client, where we bring enough evidence to kind of underline, like, dude, what you're asking is not the problem you should solve. And here's the evidence for this, and this is where your industry is moving, this is where the world is going, and you're going that way. Then yeah, we have no problem in deciding not to take on this job. Other factors would be, is it truly enriching ourselves? Or are we cookie cuttering? We don't have the urgency to compete with cookie cuttering. Now, cookie cuttering is needed, I get that, but that's not where we feel our value is.
And that's a brave decision also. Right? You have a team to...
It is.
Yeah.
It takes... What it takes is knowing yourself as a designer and a company that knows where its value is at. And you were mentioning CEOs and clients and such. We feel, as FoolProof, we feel that our best position is, yes, to have the ear of the CEO, but we work with the people that are just that step under him. Because the CEO usually goes, make it so. And it's these people that need your help. The CEO is, my experience, is usually on board with vision. Because his job is to look 5, 10 years ahead in time. It's the people that need to make it work and need to get you to that 5-year plan. They're the ones that need your help.
Is there any more questions?
Well, it is Monday, and maybe more coffee needed. We have a question in the first row? No? Okay.
Mario,
please.
What are your thoughts on gesture controls? Because with the advent of IoTs, everything's almost gesture. No one is using a keyboard or using a monitor to look at the screen to do their commands.
Mm-hmm. So in my mind, things like gesture is just a step towards an environment where technology just knows your intent. I don't think gesture control is the it-all and end-all of interaction. So I know that when Minority Report came out, everyone was like, whoa, that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool, standing the whole day. No one's going to do that. So, but it could be part of the interaction. We experimented with that with a phone company that cannot be named, where can the device pick up the gesture that you're doing for the intent that you wanted this device for? So if I did this with a phone, it would pick up. I don't have to unlock it, tap it, it would pick up. If I do that with the phone and tap anywhere, it would take a picture. Because that's what, 99.9% of the time you would use your phone for. So here, gesture is part of the interaction, but it is not the interaction by itself. It's a part of it.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
I particularly like the slide on technology is the material.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Thank you. I'll be transparent. I took this term from an interaction designer that I worked with at Frog. When I joined Frog, I was sort of the outlier. I came from a brand marketing background, and all these guys are heavily in technology. And this was my learning curve. And it freaked me out because I just did not understand anything from that world. And what Kevin told me was, you just need to see this as a material. You need to see technology as a block of clay, or a piece of wood, or a piece of paper, or a tube of paint. And then create. And let the coders figure out the code, let the industrial designers figure out the shape. But you treat it as you would a piece of art.
So in this case, can you cite a specific piece of technology as an example?
The one that immediately comes to mind was, we're 2017, so 7 years ago, we pitched for a redesign of a website for a brand who really didn't need to redesign their website. They just had to figure out how to digitally transform the whole business, but we used it as the way in. And we used facial recognition as a security device. So we built a prototype where my iPad was able to recognize my face and show me personal information. But when you come in the viewfinder, it would go to a neutral screen. When you disappeared, it could go back. And now Apple has a phone that does that. YouTube. Yeah, well, welcome to 2010. Here was a way that we thought about technology differently, because initially we had no idea how to do that. But we knew that the capabilities lived out there. And then we had creative technologists who's pretty much a genius, figure out how to put that together. And from that, we had new ideas for different applications where we saw and conceptualized a window display that would recognize what you're looking at and who you are. And the idea we had was we could take this to an airport. If the airport would sync this system up with their flight information, then the system could have a pretty good guess that you, being of Asian features, right next to where the airplane from Japan landed, you would probably be Japanese. And so the display would change in Japanese. This is the same principle underlying technology, but now shaped differently. So if I were to walk over, I look at something else, I don't see what you're seeing, I see what I'm looking at. And it's going to go, well, tall, not so Asian looking, safe bet would be English. And I see my prices in US dollars and my information in English.
Thank you.
Paul.
Oh, I've ingested sensors, I've placed them in my skin. I am emitting data about blood sugar, antibody, endocrine level, all the hormone levels. Someone walks by with a scanner and slurps up all my data. Mm-hmm. How do we avoid this kind of situation? Can we even avoid this kind of situation?
Yeah. So here we're back at that fear of data, that respect of privacy, the known trade-off versus the risk. So here's where things like blockchain, to me, are just cornerstone of how we are going to design for the nearby future, because that is, to me, sort of the closest to assuring trust in who accesses your data and who has seen it. At the same time, there also needs to be further development on letting you be aware of when that sensor's at work. But ingestible sensors for medical, we shouldn't just underestimate, or we shouldn't just see it as what it can do for the individual. It can change societies. I can bring you a case study of the Middle East region, United Emirates, where a hospital has set up a structure. All women patients get a little sensor that they can ingest. It's the size of a rice grain. What that has done is avoided personal contact. So this is a society that has not yet allowed women to do the professions that women want. So there's barely any women doctors. If you have a woman patient, you're not allowed to touch them. Blood pressure, don't touch me. Temperature, so that with a shortage of nurses, the healthcare system was just in shambles. Now it doesn't solve all medical cases. It doesn't take away the fact that some examination needs to have human contact, which is mitigated by foreign doctors, but then the discomfort of the patient is there because here's this foreigner touching me. But all the basic tests can be done at distance. And the service and the quality of patient care has gone up because the staff will know who you are, why you're here for, and I remember you spoke about that yesterday, but they also understand, additional information, sensitivities you may have, your family members that you brought along, you know them by name. So the intimacy is still there. It's a little bit different, but it's addressing and exposing the need for societal change.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question would be more on engagement and brands and products going beyond the click here, buy this, buy that, look at this, look at that, read this. How do you think we should think about engagement on that level as we build new products into the next decade? How do we define a meaningful engagement when all of our phones, all our screens have disappeared?
Yeah. So thank you for reminding me of my day-to-day brief. This is the question. This is the question. I have no silver bullet for you. I believe it will be in recognizing particular patterns within the data that we have not yet considered. Where I position this is with the knowledge that we are going to have even more data about you than ever before. But that requires people that understand what to do with that data. Be aware of their own biases. Be aware of their own assumptions. Navigate around that. And truly try to understand what the data coming out of you, literally, is saying. And that's going to give us new possibilities. I think it's not the advice to give to tell you, do it this way, do it that way. Because then I fall on my assumptions and my previous experiences for people that were not you, or for a target audience that has nothing to do with you. And yes, there are learnings and there are transferable knowledges out of those projects, but that doesn't mean I can solve what you need right here, right now. That needs a deeper look. That needs for you to design outside your lines. Please.
I'm a researcher, so I'm thinking about it from a data point of view.
Right.
So all these new products that are coming out, absolutely incredible amount of data will be coming. So it's sort of a comment and a question.
Yeah.
Can we have too much data? I'm thinking, yes.
Yeah.
But also, how do we put together all these silos of data that will be collected from all our different activities during the day to actually have a good understanding they need to be connected. So it would require quite a different approach to research with such data.
Yes. Yes. I would say that it's not just the designer that needs to design outside his lines. This process of experience design involves different disciplines, and they will all have their challenge with how this world is moving and the enablement of technology. I think what we need to keep in mind is there's no such thing as good or bad technology. But there is a good and a bad usage of what that technology gives us. I'm of a mind that if I can create today the awareness with you that you are operating under your own assumptions and under your own bias, and that's okay, but you need to be aware of it and you need to kind of park that aside and have a new look at your data and a new look at your research, then I would have had a good day, because it will start there. If we only approach data with the self-imposing bias, all we do is enforce it. And that's what's very visible right now with artificial intelligence, right? If you put in that your name is Shaniqua, you are not going to see the same things as John. That shouldn't happen. You're not going to see the same. I mean, not just products, job opportunities. You're not going to see the same as John. We rely on artificial intelligence to write out things like job descriptions. And that's already been studied, and yes, you tend to have a very narrow field of who you look for because the data you've inputted was biased to begin with. And an algorithm doesn't intuitively understand that because it has no intuition. It has no heart. It has a lot of ration. Now, it can build on the logic that you gave it, and that's its limitation. So I'm quite often asked, aren't you worried that machines will take over your job? They won't. They won't. They can't. Unless we accept that we are going to live in a very logic, linear, regulated world. Oh, good luck with that.
Thank you. Is there any more questions? Oh, okay.
Okay, hi, thank you for the interesting presentation. I like the part where you said we should do emotional design rather than rational design. But as we are aware, people do have different emotions. We react to different things differently. Even me, myself, I may actually react to the same thing differently as I grow older. So how do actually design could cater for that kind of things?
Yeah. If you design outside your lines, then you will have a closer look at human psychology. Some of the studies I've done this year was to understand the 4 dominant fields of emotion and where every emotion sits. I highly recommend you do that because suddenly your mind just expands. The reason why people are so nervous about this whole artificial intelligence thing is it's future forward. Future by definition puts you in fear because it's unknown. Unknown and fear, those are emotions. If you start being aware of where it is that you live at, and mind you, sensors will pick up the biochemical reaction in your body and they will know the emotion that you feel. And you will try and fool yourself with, I am not interested in this jacket at all, while the sensor in you knows you're lying. And yes, that brings open the door for manipulation, and that's sort of the bad word. Trust me, we all are, and we all want to be manipulated. As long as that lies within our values and within our identity, we have no problem being manipulated. It's when that doesn't happen, then it's an issue. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Great questions.
Thank you, everyone.